The ocean sparkled under the midday sun as champagne glasses clinked and laughter rolled across the deck of the luxury yacht Valencia. Everyone was dressed to impress. Designer sunglasses, sparkling jewelry, and just enough arrogance to match the size of the vessel. Everyone, except her. She wore a simple white sundress, no makeup, no diamonds, and shoes more fit for walking than posing. She hadn't come to show off. She'd come to support a friend. But that didn't stop the whispers. "Is she part of the crew?" one woman asked, sipping rosé. She said she was invited. Another laughed. "By who? The bartender?" She tried to blend in, tried to enjoy the breeze and the music, but the stares followed her like shadows. Then came the final sting. The host, perfectly tanned and unapologetically fake, approached with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," she said sweetly, "but this is a private event, for certain circles. The message was clear. You don't belong." So she turned to leave, silent and composed, but not defeated. Because what they didn't know? The man sailing in just beyond the horizon, in a line of sleek black yachts, wasn't just a guest. He was her husband, and he didn't come alone. Her name was Zara Malik. Calm, unassuming, and completely unaware that a simple invitation to a charity yacht brunch would turn into an afternoon of public humiliation. She had never been one for status games. Born into a quiet middle-class family, Zara built her life on values, not vanity. She met her husband, Saif Malik, long before the world knew his name, back when he was still sketching shipping logistics on the back of napkins and driving his own deliveries to the docks. Now, Saif was the CEO of a global marine logistics empire, with contracts in every major port and a personal fleet that could make Royal Navies jealous. But even after becoming a billionaire, he and Zara lived simply. He adored her humility. She respected his vision, and they both agreed they didn't need to prove anything to anyone. That morning, Saif had to attend a last-minute board meeting in Monaco, so Zara went to the yacht party alone, believing the invitation from an old university friend was sincere. It wasn't. The party wasn't about charity, it was about exclusivity, a playground for elite socialites who traded friendship for influence and judged worth by wardrobe. Zara arrived quietly. No stylist, no flashy name tag, just herself. And they noticed. From the moment she stepped on board, she was treated like an outsider. Ignored during introductions. Spoken over at the table. Offered tap water while others sipped Dom Perignon. At first, she thought it was a mistake, but the dismissive glances and whispering confirmed otherwise. She texted Saif, "I think I shouldn't have come, not my crowd." He replied instantly, "Stay right there. I'm 20 minutes out." She didn't know what he meant. She assumed he'd send a car or ask her to meet him at shore. She had no idea what he was bringing with him, or how the people who mocked her would suddenly find themselves outclassed, outnumbered, and out of excuses. The hostess, Serena Voss, moved across the deck with the precision of a queen, champagne in hand, eyes scanning for anyone who didn't belong. When she saw Zara sitting quietly near the back, watching the waves and avoiding the crowd, she made her move. "Oh, darling," Serena said with syrupy condescension. "You must be confused. The crew has their meal in the lower galley." Zara looked up, calm, composed. "I'm not crew. I was invited." Serena raised an eyebrow and gave a polite laugh, the kind meant to sting. "Oh, I see. Someone from the logistics side, perhaps? I guess it was only a matter of time before charity events started getting inclusive." Another guest nearby snorted. "She probably came with one of the vendors." "I didn't," Zara replied simply. But they had already turned their backs. A waiter passed by with flutes of champagne, handing them out to the surrounding guests. When Zara reached out, he paused awkwardly, then looked towards Serena, who gave a slight shake of her head. "I'm sorry, ma'am." the waiter mumbled. "We're limited on stock today." Limited. On a yacht that had 3 full bars and a literal tower of gold-plated glasses by the pool. Zara sat back, the breeze brushing against her cheek. This wasn't about champagne, it wasn't about a party, it was about the message. You are not one of us. Still, she refused to leave. Not out of pride, but because she had nothing to be ashamed of. But the final blow came moments later. As guests moved to take group photos on the upper deck, a staff member approached her. "I'm sorry," he said, "but these are reserved shots. Only the core invitees are needed for this set." Zara stood. "I was invited." "Of course, but Serena has asked that we keep the official photos and on brand." There it was, not even hidden anymore. She stepped aside as the group posed, glittering and smug. Some offered fake smiles. Most didn't acknowledge her at all. She glanced at her phone again. One new message. Look toward the water. She turned, and her breath caught. Out beyond the yacht's stern, emerging in perfect formation, were 3 jet-black vessels cutting across the sea, sleek, silent, and unmistakably powerful. At the center, leading them, was the K-Bar, Saif Malik's flagship yacht. Twice the size of Valencia, it was a floating marvel of modern engineering and quiet opulence. Gasps echoed across the deck. Whose fleet is that? Is it some royal? No, wait, that's Malik Maritime's insignia. And then, the K-Bar drew close enough to cast a shadow over the party. The crew of Valencia moved in panic, radioing, adjusting, scrambling for context. And before anyone could understand what was happening, a private tender separated from the lead yacht and made its way toward Valencia. Standing in it, tall, composed, and dressed in tailored white linen, was Saif, and his eyes, locked only on one person. The tender slid up to Valencia's side with a grace that demanded silence. As Saif Malik stepped aboard, every conversation died mid-sentence. His presence was unmistakable. Tall, calm, dressed in crisp white with the dark sunglasses and the quiet confidence of a man used to being underestimated, right until the moment it mattered. He didn't speak at first. He didn't have to. The crew recognized him instantly. A few stepped aside without being told. One even gave a half bow, a reflex born from respect, not protocol. Serena, still holding her champagne, blinked in confusion. "Is that?" one of her guests whispered. "That's Saif Malik, as in Malik Maritime, the shipping tycoon." Serena's smile twitched. "Oh, I didn't realize he was in town." Saif walked calmly through the crowd, past the chandeliers, the gold-trimmed lounge chairs, and the people who had just moments ago laughed at his wife. He didn't look at them. He looked for her. And then he found her, standing near the edge, sunlit, still, and as elegant in her simplicity as ever. He walked straight to her and, without hesitation, kissed her cheek. "Sorry I'm late," he said. "Traffic on the water." A few people chuckled nervously. Most just stared, frozen. Then, turning to the gathering behind them, Saif finally spoke. Not with anger, but with unmistakable clarity. "I'd like to thank whoever decided this was a private event," he said, scanning the group, "because it made my wife very easy to spot." There were no interruptions now. "She doesn't wear labels," he continued, "and she doesn't chase titles. But everything that makes me someone worth inviting is because of her." The weight of his words settled like a storm cloud. "She didn't need this party, but after what I saw, I'm considering buying the boat." Gasps. "I think it would make a good backup for our smaller events." Serena's face went pale. "Mr. Malik," he held up a hand. "It's Saif, and that's Mrs. Malik, the woman you dismissed." Zara remained quiet, still dignified, never needing to gloat, because she had never been interested in showing power, only in holding it with grace. Saif turned to her. "I have a better party waiting. one where the ocean is wider and the silence is kinder. He extended his hand. She took it, and together they walked back to the tender, leaving behind a yacht full of people who finally understood. They hadn't just ignored someone important. They had embarrassed themselves in front of someone unforgettable. As Saif and Zara's tender pulled away, a hush lingered on Valencia's deck like mist. No music, no laughter, just the soft sound of waves and the weight of unspoken regret. Guests who had whispered now stayed quiet for a very different reason. The woman they mocked had just left, on a vessel larger than their ego could comprehend, beside a man who had just reminded them what real power looked like. Not flashy, not loud, but unshakable. Serena Voss stood near the bar, her hand still clutching the now warm stem of a champagne flute. "She never said who she was," she muttered defensively. But someone near her replied softly, "She didn't have to." Back on the K-bar, Zara leaned on the polished rail, hair gently tousled by the sea breeze. "That was dramatic," she said, a soft smile playing on her lips. Saif chuckled. "Dramatic is ordering the yacht to park alongside theirs like a cruise ship." I went with restraint. She shook her head. "I didn't need a scene." "I know," he said, gently placing his hand over hers. "But sometimes a little silence needs to be broken, not with noise, but with clarity." And from that moment on, those who were on Valencia never forgot her. Not because she was married to wealth, but because, in the face of insult, she chose stillness. And in return, the world, finally, stood still to listen. Zara didn't demand respect. She didn't name-drop, flash wealth, or fight back with ego. She simply stood in her truth and let others reveal their character. And, when the moment came, she didn't need revenge. She had dignity, because sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all, until the world watches you sail away and realizes who they just pushed aside. Have you ever been made to feel like you didn't belong, only to prove, silently, that you did all along? Or seen someone judged by appearance, not knowing the strength they carried? Tell your story in the comments. You never know who might need the reminder that calm confidence is louder than any crowd. If this story spoke to you, subscribe, hit the bell, and return for more. We tell stories that rise slowly, but leave waves behind. And remember, elegance is quiet, power is patient, and true presence doesn't need permission. So next time they try to measure your worth by how you dress or who you impress, let them. Because one day the tide will shift, and you won't need to say a word. You'll just sail right past them. Until the next story, stay grounded, stay graceful, and never forget what you carry even when no one else can see it.